plants that we get here. It tastes totally different. Now, probably would not taste different to you because the European Coke tends to use real sugar, tends to use local water supplies. But in the US, we're so used to this sort of the way Coke tastes that when you taste Mexican Coke, you go, oh wait, this is good. And in Denver, there are stores that put big signs out when the truck from Mexico comes up, right? And people will run in. My local, you know Costco is the big warehouse store? My Costco carries Mexican Coke. It'll tell you a lot about the neighborhood I live in, right? So those are the kinds of, localizations. Well, ICA was having the same problem, right? They're starting now, they've got immigrant populations in kind of tight communities, and the ICA product mix was not what they wanted. So they had to start thinking about how to market to that. So what digital marketing communication gives them, what digital direct mail gives them, is that ability to speak to that community, to let them know what the product mix in their local store is, not just what the national specials are for ICA. And it allows the product buyers for each one of the stores to have a closer relationship with their customers. So they now have a web to print application. It's kind of a web to marketing to print application, right? They don't directly impact it, but the food buyers in every one of the markets now, they can tell the marketing team what specials they need in their store, what kind of food needs to be on special in their store. And if you watch carefully over the next year or so, what you should start to see in the ICA marketing is that you should start to see recipes in the mailings that they do that are local to the store, and spotlighting things in the neighborhood, basically the things the neighborhood wants to see, the kinds of recipes and the kinds of foods that they want to see. It's been a learning experience for them over the last 6-7 years. What I really wanted to leave you with a takeaway is you guys are in the smartest place on earth. You're in Sweden. You don't need to come here. Always come to the show, right? We love to have you at the show. But if you look around in your own backyard, some of the smartest marketers I know, especially the smartest digital marketers I know, the smartest direct mailers that I know are in Europe. They're the team at ICA. They're the team at Colruyt in Belgium. I don't know if you know Colruyt, the Colruyt story. They're the team at Zeb Jeans. These are teams in Europe that are just smarter than smart. The team at Hansaprint out of Turku in Finland, smarter than smart. Colruyt profiles like ICA. They were a grocery chain, huge market share in the Belgian marketplace. They serve southern Netherlands, all of Belgium, and in northern France. They have 280 stores. Colruyt believes in being the low-cost provider. They are masters of their own fate to the point where they own the power that drives their stores. They bought a piece of a wind farm in the North Atlantic, right? They have solar panels on every store. They have their own trucks that deliver to their store. Their stores have no storage. None, zero at all. Because the trucks come twice every day. Based on the inventory management system, they know exactly what to bring. The only thing that they couldn't do is they couldn't quite figure out how to take that personalization at the store level to their customers, and they couldn't figure out how to give the store managers the ability to make the store local, right? To make the signs in the store local, because everything was being done offset, the direct mail was offset, everybody was getting the same thing no matter where they lived. It was really not in keeping with the Colruyt mentality. So 4 years ago, Colruyt took their in-house printing plant, spun it off as a separate company called Sept, and gave them the mission to figure out how to make it personal and how to make it greener. Not an easy thing to do both of those at the same time. So what they did is they bought a data company. Not everyone can do this. Not everyone can just go buy a company to bring in resource, but they were able to buy a data company. They did some very interesting data mining, and they categorized their customers into 6 buckets, just 6, so that all customers fit in one or the other. And 80% of the crossover in those buckets, what they started to look for is if I put these people into these 6 buckets, what are the differences within the bucket? What are the things that 80% of the people buy, but 20% of the people don't in this bucket? And they changed the marketing of their direct mail piece, which goes out every 2 weeks, rain or shine, to focus on the things within that bucket that people weren't buying. So it was legal personalization and legal targeted marketing, because in Belgium you got to be really careful. You can't even put a piece of direct mail in that has somebody's name on it unless it's in an envelope. So they had to be very, very careful. But by doing it this way, by looking for commonalities, they created a direct marketing piece that now customers bring into the store and ask questions about, as opposed to throwing it away. Now they get phone calls from customers asking about things that are in the things, like, why did you ask if I wanted sardines? Oh, well, the call center knows what to say. Well, you know, we have a lot of customers who are also buying some other product who also buy sardines, so we thought you might like sardines. Ah, okay, I'll try the sardines. They're actually watching the revenue go higher. So if I tell you that they've added 600 million euro to their bottom line in the last 18 months by changing how they communicate to their customer, reducing the number of pages that they mail out to the customer, because now the customers only get things that they're really trying to market to them, not everything in the kitchen sink. And they've been able to go digital, which means that they're not overprinting, they're not underprinting, and they're not throwing things away. They're mailing specifically to the address, and that's actually saved them a lot of paper. And because of going digital, they've changed the posters in the stores. So we discovered quite by accident, we don't sell a press to print posters. That's another piece of HP. So we walked into their plant in Belgium, and they were printing posters on our press. And excuse me? How'd you do that? And they said, well, you know, our store managers wanted to be able to focus on, you know, local produce or a local supplier, because all the stores work with local farmers for the fruit and vegetable supply. And so we asked the guys in the plant if they thought they could print a poster, and they thought they could. So they took their web to print application and made it a web to marketing application, kind of the way ICA did. And so now the store managers can, as they have access to new deals, or they want to make a deal, or they want to get something to push, they can request a poster. The next day it's delivered on the truck with the things that are coming to the store every day, and they put it in their big front glass window that all the grocery stores have, so that that's special of the day. And then they get little posters to put on all the cashiers. They have people leaving the line to go buy the stuff that's on special that they missed. So it's just the way that you can take digital and do something different. Colroyd is one of those really cool applications. We actually, out on HP.com, have the case study out there. And if you want to know more about it and you have any questions about it, just find me and I'm happy to tell you the whole story on it. But those were the stories I wanted to share. One, you guys are smarter than we are. And two, there are really cool things happening kind of in your own backyard, and we're finally learning them. I was done. Couldn't you tell that was the wrap-up? So what can I help you with? What can I answer? Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
You do.
The biggest problem we have is the pricing. How to price the thing to the customer, because sometimes they just don't get the whole picture. Yeah. How do you do that?
So the question is pricing. And yes, pricing is a problem. And it's not just in Sweden. It's everywhere I go in the world, because the minute you start talking about personalization and targeting, or even segmentation, it doesn't even have to be personalized. You know, you're adding cost to that marketing piece because of the people power and the brain power and the time. And so one of the ways that we've been a bit successful with customers around the world who face that same battle is by targeting pilots. So one of the things, we have an existing customer who's just not really convinced that there's value in changing the marketing style. We offer to take 10% of the group. Now, as HP, we're willing to partner with our print provider customers to help them do that pilot. most vendors on this floor would do the exact same thing for someone by helping maybe subsidize the ink or toner cost, maybe finding a paper partner willing to do the cost. Now here's the trade-off. We're willing to do it to help you get over that hump so that the cost stays the same for the pilot, with the understanding with the customer that if it works, they're going to seriously consider taking it to the whole thing, which is good for everybody. But we always want the case study. If this works, I want you to be willing, Mr. Customer, to let me write about the fact that this worked for you. Whether it's in an industry trade publication or my own company's case study site, I want to be able to write about it, because the more I can write about it, the more I'm going to be able to build my business.
But I think it's easy to take the cost for the paper and the ink and so on, but the man hours, the data analysts and so on.
So let's think about that for a second. So it's easy to do small things. The concern is, is it the cost of data analysts and the cost of the man hours? And there's no question that that's sort of the biggest cost, right? But also sort of think smaller. So one of the things that we try to do, we do crawl, walk, run. Have you heard this before? We do crawl, walk, run. This is the mantra of my life. It applies to everything I do. Well, except buying ranches, but beyond it. Crawl, walk, run. So you don't have to dive into the data to prove a point to a customer. What you can do is you can take a national event, something that everybody knows, a seasonal change, and you can show how focusing on something everyone knows changes the response rates, and it does. It's kind of interesting anywhere you go in the world, but that will always work. So instead of focusing on the product of the customer, link the product to something everybody feels good about. And then try that as the pilot. That doesn't take man hours, it doesn't take analysis. It just proves that by changing how you tell the story, that you will get this higher ROI. Another baby step is to do things like when World Cup is on, right? Everybody goes crazy. So my customer in Australia actually linked a mobile phone campaign to who was playing in the World Cup each round, and they were offering discounts to the countries that won for your phone calls. And even people who didn't normally call those countries were signing up for the mobile phone and never calling those countries, but it got their attention that there was a discount being offered as part of World Cup. It just linked to something that people felt good about. So that's another, you have to think about data, grow into the point where you're actually doing the data analysis and the data mining and you're trying to write triggers. Start with things that are bigger buckets and prove the point to the customer, and then start to wiggle into the other pieces. And also, once you've proven the point, your customer is probably already doing a lot of data analysis. They probably already know their customers, but they don't share with you. Many customers do not measure their marketing. You know what always shocks me is Procter & Gamble, who are like the kings of measuring. They measure absolutely everything, but when you go talk to Unilever, they don't. It just, it's scary, the companies that don't measure their marketing. And it's true, but look, for every example I can give you of someone who's been able to do it and work their way through, you're going to give me 5 that haven't. And all I can tell you, right, because the naysayers are much greater than those who have adopted, and all I can tell you is that somewhere in your customer mix, there's a customer who's going to be willing to get on board with you. And if you can get one success in your own shop, then you can drive the next one and the next one. And for some of our customers that I've worked with for the last 10 years in the inkjet side, sometimes it took us, 2 years to find the customer that would work with us. But then once we got them, the other customers followed. We had this battle in Australia. There's the Coles Myers Group is the big retail grocery chain in Australia. And for 2 years, we just were beating our heads against the wall. And then they had a loyalty program. So we finally went in and we said, well, what if we did a loyalty mailer for you and showed you what the power of doing a little, just 2, 3 little points of segmentation would be. So we did it with a tiny little test bucket of 10% of their customers. And we did it digital, and we did it just a tiny bit of segmentation. And the response rates on those pieces were 50% higher than the response rates on the other pieces. Well, then all of a sudden we got their attention. So I'm not pretending any of this is easy. It's not. But when you look in your own backyard at how ICA is approaching it, look across the pond to how Colruyt is doing it, how Hansaprint has done it for a whole host of financial services companies in Finland and the Nordics, there is a lot of proof point in your own backyard that it does work. It's never easy to get somebody to change their mindset about how they're going to go to market with their own communication. But if you can get one to do it, you can probably get 2, 3, and 4 to do it. It's going to be hard every step of the way. I promise you it will never be easy, but the value and the reward is really high, right? So if you can get one, then you've got something you can talk about. Does that make anybody else have a question? Answer? Solution? Joke?
Should we focus on the end customer or target the agencies?
So here's what I would tell you about. I like targeting agencies, but when you target an agency, you have to do it totally differently than targeting a customer, because it's got to be an education approach, right? You can't pitch an agency. They're pitch professionals, right? It's trying to steal from a thief. You really can't. It's very, very hard to do. But if you can go in with an education story, let me show you how this can work. One of the things a lot of my customers around the world have done is they host seminars. It might be an evening at a bar that has a back room that they can use. Everybody has a couple drinks. They sit down and they do the education story about, some success. It might not be a local success. It might be I've supplied decks from around the world to people. A lot of times that will get them thinking differently, and that's how the conversation starts. If you can get the conversation started, then you can start to get them to pitch to their customers, which is what you have to have them do. The agency approach is a subtle one, but it can be very, very effective. In fact, at HP now, we have a whole team of people that we called our brand owner and agencies group. And they are doing nothing but going out and talking to agencies, just education, no sales. Right? It's a big investment for us, but we're hoping it'll pay off. So educate, in a bar at night, never bad, right? Always a good thing. If somebody has a drink in their hand, they will probably listen to you. Right? It's like if somebody has a free drink in their hand, it's even better. But Jonathan does it with you have to pay at the bar, but it's networking, so he gets people to come. So my son works. He's the committee chair for the Young Professionals Committee within the Business Marketing Association. So his specialty is setting up tweet-ups for the business marketer, the young professionals in Denver. And when he first did it, he'd get 5 or 6 people and called it a success. He's now getting 50 to 75 people to come because they know there's no pitch. They know there's just drinks and education. So it takes a little while to get it going, but once you demonstrate what's going to happen, people will come and they will listen. So it's a smart way to try and get people to listen to your story without beating them over the head with it. Right? We got to stop, don't we? We good? We good? I have to stop. I have to go back to my job. Wait, she asked questions. They're allowed to be shy? Well, then they have the drink in their hand and they're just like... if you, had a beer in your hand, it'd be different, right? So, guys, I have absolutely enjoyed talking at you this morning. It's something I do a lot, so I'm kind of used to it. But here's what I will tell you. One, please enjoy the book. If you have any question at all about the books that we've given you, you want to know more about where the data came from, if you want to know more about where the article content came from, do not hesitate to ask me. I am the easiest person on earth to find, right? I promise you. I am, you can find me through Deb. You can find me on LinkedIn as Pat McGrew, oddly. On Twitter as Pat McGrew. I'm on Facebook as Pat McGrew. So I'm pretty easy to find. If you put my name into any search engine, you will find me. Well, you will find me, or you will find the football coach in Oklahoma. That's not me. I'm the other one. But I come up with like 250,000 hits when you put me into Google, so you can't miss me. McGrew@hp.com will always find me as well. They can't get much easier than that, right? No dots, no dashes, no underscores, just McGrew@hp.com finds me. And I'm happy to answer questions anytime, anywhere, and I don't require you to be an HP customer, right? I just will answer questions for anybody, anywhere, anytime. That's kind of how I work. And I'll be delighted. I'm living over a few aisles over that way and one up that way in 1241 on the far edge of the HP booth. See, we're inkjet. So we are the smallest printing operation inside of HP. I don't